I don't believe in the paranormal, however. If you were to ask me if ghosts were real, I would probably say no. Maybe out of denial, or maybe my brain has unconsciously made some rational explanation, and I just haven't realized yet. What happened to me wasn't a large thing at all. I don't think ghosts would do anything as big as what some people claim to experience on this subreddit, if they are even real. Again, what happened isn't that big, but it almost made me question my own beliefs. Washington State is a creepy place, and one of my favorite things about the state is all of the small towns scattered around. You drive through these towns and everybody's heads will turn to stare at you, and only stop when they couldn't turn their heads anymore. Even though I live here, I feel like an outsider in all of the coastal towns, and I don't hate it. I don't live in the place where this happened, so I feel like I should say exactly where this happened, just for context. The Long Beach Peninsula has many ghost stories, and also had one of the oldest towns in Washington State. Oysterville is an unincorporated village with so much history it seems to be overflowing out of the small town. I was there on a trip with a few family members, and the second we entered the town I started to feel strange. I couldn't really tell why, as I get strange feelings a lot. I never even considered that they could be paranormal. We visited a small church that was always open, except for at night. We also visited a schoolhouse and an old abandoned cabin, all of which you should easily be able to find by driving around the town for a short amount of time. The church was unfortunately, or fortunately, the only place we were able to actually enter. The church was old and white with a red roof. Inside was all brown wood that still had a faint earthy smell. The floor of the stage and the altar creaked when you walked on it, and the small rooms to the side also creaked. The secondary room off to the side of the altar connected to the small square entryway, which also had a door leading to the altar. One member of my family seriously believes in ghosts to the point of saging their house every few months or more often. To try to trick them, likely with the intent of teasing them after the fact, I went around to the front entrance area and pushed open a door. I turned the knob and the door swung open, as the entire church was tilted on a hill. I ran around to see this person freaking out, and what happened next happened fast. The door swung back closed, going the opposite the direction from the way the church was tilted. I stopped laughing for a few seconds and because it was nothing crazy, ultimately decided to annoy it. 3 true horror stories I encountered. Here are 1 to 3 stories that left me still scared just by thinking of them. First story, title, The Tapping on the Glass Table. It happened not long ago. I was chilling in my room, watching a video on my school iPad. It was a rainy day. It was around 6 to 7 p.m. My mother and grandma were outside like always. At some point I needed to go pee. Before I could get up, I heard loud tapping on the glass table in the living room. It scared me so much, I hid under my blanket, too scared to move an inch. The tapping took a few seconds. After I heard the door open, I got up and asked my mother, but she said it wasn't her. Of course, I got more scared, quickly went to the toilet and did my business. I got back in my room, a bit scared still. My mother was outside again. I heard another time tapping, which scared me. Second story, title, The Thing Shadow by the Plant. I was once alone at home, doing my makeup for fun. As I got to the living room mirror near the open bedroom door of my mother, I looked at my makeup, doing poses. While doing poses, I saw in the corner of my eye something running away. It started by a plant in the bedroom. It freaked me out that I almost screamed, scaring me for my life. It happened another time, so I left the room and got into the dining room, my only place where I felt safe. Last story, title, The Pale Hand Peeking from the Darkness of Another Room into Mine. I had a time where I was up at 8 to 9 p.m., my room always dark, and the only light was my phone and iPad, which I used to watch films. Sometimes I had to turn on the flashlight on my phone and look around my own room. I had the feeling of being watched. Feeling watched was a daily activity for me. I never took it serious. As I turned off the flashlight and continued watching the film on my iPad, a pale white hand peeking out of the darkness from the other room. My mother was doing her thing somewhere in another room, but not in my room, nor in the room across me. I froze in fear, staring at the pale hand. It was skinny, too skinny to be human. I saw eyes not bright glowing, but only a bit. The more I looked, the more I saw the thing. Skinny, pale, no hair. I didn't own an animal. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, and it disappeared, and I quickly turned on a lamp near me, and soon I slept with light on. I ate meanwhile.
Hello, my name is Burke, currently 13. This happened 3 years ago, in 2022 when I was 10. I was in 5th grade. I live in an apartment building. While I was playing Roblox in the living room, my mom came to me and said, "Burke, I'm going to the market to buy some vegetables. Do you want me to buy you something?" she said. I said no, I'm fine. I don't want anything. After she left, I continued playing. The market is not too close, a few streets away. 10 minutes later, I heard my mom called my name. She said Burke. I was terrified. I was completely frozen and I was scared for my life. And there's nitrogen monoxide way she could enter the house from the windows. We live in an apartment with 3 floors and we live in the highest floor. I quickly ran to the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife. Then, I have searched room by room and found nitrogen monoxide 1. I sat in the living room doing nothing. I put the kitchen knife back and I just sat in front of my computer, terrified. I didn't tell this to my mom, and to this day, she still doesn't know. This literally just happened and I'm using speech to text to tell you guys as I sit in my bathroom waiting for my parents to answer so I can go back home. I just moved to Cape Cod. I live in a weird little house that I found in the quiet town of East Falmouth. The house is a little rundown, but after considering the fact that the house is technically okay to live in and it is a really good price, I was willing to put up with it. I was up all night and for the 4th night in a row as I've been talking to this girl that I met online. Weird shit has been happening to me since I met her. See, I've always been one to knock a scary story as a coincidence or flat out made up, and of course, this girl is full of ghost stories. I've never felt such a wrong feeling hearing them as I do when she tells them. It's currently 5 a.m. and about 20 minutes ago, she told me that she had to take a quick nap before school. This was after she was telling me ghost stories all fucking night. She started sending me memes after telling me ghost stories, and I still felt sick no matter how many funny memes she sent me. She kept telling me that she was feeling watched, and every time she says that, I started to feel like I was being watched. She kept saying she was seeing something out of the corner of her eyes, and the same thing would happen to me as or before she said it. She then just told me before she got off the phone that she knew something was in the room with her, and that's when I knew it. There was something in the room with me. I ignored it. She hung up. Earlier in the night, I had cracked a seltzer water, and right after she hung up the bubbles started growing louder and louder until it was deafening. I was sitting in the guest room and I have a curtain divider that splits the 2 beds, and it started moving like crazy. I decided to run, but first I had to move the curtain, and I had a feeling that when I moved the curtain, I would see what it was. I contemplated for a second, but with the curtain open, nothing. I felt blessed and ran towards the door to get the hell out of there. I ripped the door open, and there was. It was not human, and I don't know what it was. I can only describe as a figure made of shapes with a face, and the features of the face were upside down, but the head wasn't. There's something in my house. I ran past it but had to push it to get through. It felt like nothing and something at the same time. I looked back and was gone. I don't know if I should call the police. I don't know who to tell. They will think I'm crazy. I told my parents, and they still haven't answered after explaining this whole story. What should I do? Help.
I made another story, but this one is also a true story from my friend. I will call him G. Me and G were sitting on a couch in an apartment when he told me this story. Cracked some drinks and started telling our experiences. I could see the fear in his eyes before he told me this. G had spent the weekend in, I believe, Kansas in a cabin. He was sitting in a loft overlooking the kitchen and living room. His dad was asleep and his brother was in his room. He was on his phone until he heard movement and cups being moved around. G built up the courage to say Dad, thinking he was getting a late-night snack. When he pronounced his name, the noise stopped abruptly. He didn't dare to look down, thinking there was someone down there. He ran to his brother's room, but to his avail, he was sleeping. There was no other option to run downstairs and see if his dad was sleeping. He ran to his dad's room, but he was fast asleep. When he ran downstairs, he heard someone or something close the door, which I'm assuming was to hide. He heard a loud creak downstairs again. His dad was out of it, so he couldn't help much. This is where the story ends, but before he went back upstairs, everything was open in the kitchen with one glass of water he was sure wasn't there before he went to bed. I don't know what to think of this story. If you have feedback on any of my stories, please reach out because I'm skeptical.
Last month, I had a daily base where I would go at around PM. In the woods, my mother allowed me it and always asked me where I would go. We lived near woods, so I told her where. When I left the house and walked 2 paths, I got to the main road, walked past a closed restaurant and past one single house. The woods were sometimes scary since it got sooner dark. I walked into the woods. Not many people were here, and at this day there was no person. I didn't think anything about it and walked. I got to a place for cows to eat grass, but I never saw some in it, but a farmer owned it. I looked across it to a bunch of trees. I saw a light twice, which was strange, but I didn't think anything about it. I turned around and walked back to leave since it was getting soon dark. I heard 3 gunshots and thought it were just hunters. I didn't know if it was hunting season or not, but I continued walking. The woods got so quiet, I started singing so I wouldn't get scared. As soon as I almost got out, I stopped singing and looked to my right. I didn't wear glasses, but I saw something run fast. It looked thin and it ran like a human. The path across me was far away, but it was icy and wet, so the person should have easily slipped. I got scared and froze watching it. It didn't look like it was wearing clothes. As I saw it ran the path and almost got to me, I ran as fast as I could, saying mama over and over again. I ran home so fast. I was home at PM. I sometimes look back since I was scared and to make sure it wasn't following me. Every time I think about it, what it was, which I still don't know, it still scares me sometimes. It was so thin, pale, and it was so fast. Now, every time I go up there, I walk with somebody on the phone.
It was 2021 to 22. We would walk down to a school in the summer sometimes. This happened in 2021 with 2 friends. They saw a creature and bolted. I never got a description from the 2, but with some other friends during summer 2022, the 2 saw this creature behind bushes. One of them, who is pretty tough, had a scratch on his back. He was petrified. Both of them pointed, yelled, panicked. We eventually ran. This happened a few times. I couldn't see it. One of them drew me a picture a few months ago of it. It had horns, a black body, and it could stand. It had a wolf-like face with white glowing eyes. This always happened in the daytime. It also got scary when one of my friend's brothers said to one of my friends and me of how he saw a cougar with a black body and horns. My friend and me looked at each other. We told his brother, the other friend, about his encounter. I forget his reaction. One of them still sees it to this day, and he still reacts with fear. I remember hearing a man yelling from that forest at night. The worst part, that forest is near my house, like across the street and behind the house on the opposite side. I checked out the area and nothing appears, but the feeling of dread is always there. I am not gonna stop you from telling this tale to others, as it's pretty short and sweet.
The experience that shook me to my core. This was around 3 years ago, back when I was in high school, and I remember it was midnight, around 11 o'clock-ish, and I was in my bed when I woke up, and I looked at the time on my Alexa, which said 11:07 on it, and so I decided to get up and go to the bathroom. But when I got to the bathroom door, I looked in the hallway, because my house has a hallway where all the rooms are. And I look for a second and see a dark figure dart past the doorway that leads into the hallway extremely quickly. But I brushed it off as I thought my eyes were just playing tricks on me. And so I open the door and walk into the bathroom, and as I'm sitting there, I began to hear what sounded like faint footsteps coming from the very end of the hallway. But again I brushed it off, 2 floors creaking, and then I come out of the bathroom and go back into my room and go back to bed. But then what felt like 30 seconds later, I began to hear a woman's voice faintly saying my name. And then it happened. 1 minute after I heard the voice, something started violently banging on my room door, and it was closed, and it continued for about maybe 5 seconds. Then after it stopped, I went to investigate, and found none there, and for the rest of the night I stayed awake terrified.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more scary stories.